A woman named Tulsa, a 10-day-old baby girl who died after she was found in a washing machine last November, has been sentenced to 15 years in prison. Lyndsey Dawn pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter in the death of Maggie May, who was just 10 days old when her aunt discovered her inside a running washing machine. The autopsy showed Trammell died by drowning. Fiddler was initially charged with first-degree murder in the case, but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge in August. She told investigators she didn't know how the child had gotten into the washing machine. Police say Fiddler tested positive for meth and other drugs after her arrest. Fiddler must serve at least 85% of her sentence, 12 years and 9 months, before she is eligible for parole. Beville woman handed split 30-year term in baby's death. A Bartlesville woman was sentenced to prison Wednesday for the death of her 10-day-old daughter, whose body was found in a washing machine. Washington County District Judge Curtis DeLapp, following a recommendation from the District Attorney's Office, sentenced Lyndsey Dawn Fiddler, 27, to a split 30-year term on a child neglect charge and to 4 years in prison on a second-degree manslaughter charge. The prison sentences will run concurrently. The split term calls for 15 years to be served in prison, followed by a 15-year probation. Child neglect is defined in Oklahoma as a violent crime that requires the defendant to serve 85% of the prison sentence before being eligible for parole. Fiddler pleaded guilty in August to the charges related to the November 44th death of Maggie May Trammell. "Good luck, Ms. Fiddler," DeLapp said to the defendant, who also was fined $2,500 and ordered to undergo substance abuse counseling and register as a violent offender. A few supporters gathered in the courtroom and followed Fiddler down the hall to the elevator. As she made the trip back to the jail where she has been held since November, Fiddler requested that she be sent to prison as soon as possible. Since her arrest, Fiddler has said repeatedly that she does not know how her baby got into the washing machine. Fiddler tested positive for several drugs, including methamphetamine, when she was arrested. According to a present-tense investigation report, Fiddler said she is guilty of child neglect because of her drug use, but she does not believe that she put the infant in the washing machine. "I know everybody has slammed me, and I deserve some slamming for taking care of my children while on drugs. But I know I would not hurt my children. I never have," she states in the report. "It's all so bad, and everyone has spent so much time putting me down. I feel like it's them against me." District Attorney Kevin Buchanan initially charged Fiddler with first-degree murder, but amended the charge in August, saying the evidence does not indicate the defendant intentionally killed her child. Fiddler's 2 other children, ages 6 and 9, now live with a relative. Buchanan indicated that the recommended sentence length was intended to ensure that the inmates would be adults by the time she was released. Bartlesville woman sentenced for washing machine death of infant daughter, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. A Bartlesville woman who pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter in the death of her was sentenced Wednesday in Washington State. Was initially charged with first-degree murder and child neglect in the death of Maggie Trammell on November 44, 2010. Trammell was found dead in a washing machine at Fiddler's Bartlesville apartment. In late August, Fiddler entered a guilty plea to the reduced manslaughter charge and the charge of child neglect. "I omitted to use ordinary care and caution in regards to supervising Maggie May by using and abusing methamphetamine and the prescription drugs," wrote Fiddler in court papers filed in Washington County. Fiddler says her actions caused the death of her infant daughter. In November 2010, Fiddler says she fed, bathed, dressed her baby, and laid her down. She writes that she passed out on the couch, and when she woke up, she said her aunt found Maggie May dead in the clothes washing machine. Oh, it's horrible. "You don't expect to hear anything like that, especially here," said Dewey resident Tara Rickman. "I think it's sad. I think it's sad that there is a child that's gone. I think it's sad that anybody got to that stage in their life," said Marion Pyatt, Bartlesville resident. Fiddler says her aunt, Rhonda Coshatt, was also with her in the home when Maggie May drowned. She says her aunt was high on morphine, but that she doesn't know who put the baby in the washer. Bartlesville police said Coshatt was on prescribed medication and did not break the law. They say she was investigated. The situation was discussed with the DA, and they don't expect charges to be filed against her. Bartlesville woman pleads guilty in baby's washing machine. Death, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. A Bartlesville woman charged with killing her infant daughter by putting her in a washing machine pleaded guilty Tuesday to second-degree manslaughter and child neglect in a Washington County courtroom. Lyndsey Fiddler, 26, had waived her right to a jury trial on August 99, 2011. It was a shocking case that united a community. Last November, 10-day-old Maggie May was found dead in a washing machine. Tiny, very tiny. She had long feet and big hands. "I only see her 4 times, said Jessica Solis, Maggie May's aunt. Her mother, Lyndsey Fiddler, was arrested, accused of being so high on meth she killed her baby. I want people to see the effects of drugs. That's the most important thing, I think. It could have been prevented. Like the lady said, it really could have," Solis said. Fiddler told police she didn't know how the baby ended up in the washing machine. She was facing a first-degree murder charge. But prosecutors say limited samples of Fiddler's blood made it tough to prove how many drugs were in her system. The DA says it doesn't appear she meant to kill little Maggie May, but he says Fiddler's drug use directly led to the infant's death. Fiddler ended up pleading guilty to second-degree manslaughter and child neglect. The DA is recommending Fiddler spend the next 15 years in prison and another 15 years on probation for her role in Maggie May's death. That sentence would ensure Fiddler's other children would never be placed back in her custody. Lyndsey Fiddler will be sentenced in October. Statement from Washington County District Attorney Kevin Buchanan. Today, Lyndsey Dawn Fiddler entered pleas of guilty to the charges of manslaughter, second degree, and child neglect, ending a 9-month-long investigation and prosecution that has been the focus of the Washington County District Attorney's Office and the Bartlesville Police Department since these crimes occurred in November 2010. This case has reached a favorable resolution mainly due to the hard work and professionalism of the Bartlesville Police Department. This case involved unique factual and legal circumstances that resulted in the tragic death of Maggie May, the defendant's 10-day-old infant. These unusual circumstances created complex evidentiary issues, including limited samples of Ms. Fiddler's blood to prove the quantity of drugs in her system. After extensive review and discussion of the events that led to the death of Maggie May, the evidence does not indicate that the defendant intentionally killed her child. Ms. Fiddler's conscious decision to ingest methamphetamine, along with other prescription medication, directly led to the death of Maggie May. The defendant's intoxication rendered her incapable of caring for her child and exposed her infant child to the consequences of illegal drug use. The Washington County District Attorney's Office has prioritized this case and dedicated many long hours and resources to this successful prosecution. The culmination of this work has led this office to recommend that the defendant be sentenced to 30 years, with 15 years to be served in the Department of Corrections. The crime of child neglect is categorized as a violent crime and requires the defendant to serve 85% of her incarceration before becoming eligible for parole. Parole is not mandated upon reaching 85% of the defendant's sentence. The recommended sentence was considered because it will ensure that the defendant's surviving minor children reach the age of majority before Ms. Fiddler is released. Therefore, they will not be placed back into her custody. After release from incarceration, the defendant will be closely supervised for 15 years. In the event of future violations of the law or rules of probation, the defendant will be subject to serving the remainder of the sentence in jail. The Washington County District Attorney's Office is acutely aware of the outrage felt by our community following Maggie May death. Given my office's challenges in prosecuting this case to a successful and desirable verdict, an appropriate and just outcome has been reached for Ms. Fiddler's surviving children and all others personally involved and affected by this case. Me, baby in washing machine, died of drowning. Bartlesville. The Oklahoma State Medical Examiner's Office has ruled a 10-day-old baby whose body was discovered in a washing machine died of drowning. The autopsy report for Maggie May Trammell, who died November 44th, was released this week by the state agency, which ruled the infant's death was a homicide. The Washington County District Attorney's Office on Wednesday charged the baby's mother, Lyndsey Fiddler, with first-degree murder. The report notes the baby had numerous contusions and abrasions consistent with the conditions that would be endured while in the washing machine during a wash cycle. There were no drugs or alcohol in the baby's system, according to toxicology tests performed by the medical examiner's office. Bartlesville police arrested Fiddler in the child's death after an extensive investigation that began with a 911 call reporting the death of an infant child whose body was discovered inside a washing machine that had just completed its spin cycle. The baby's great-aunt, Rhonda Coshatt, told authorities she fed Maggie May and changed her diaper before Fiddler took the infant to another room, saying she would put the girl to bed. Coshatt told police she found the baby in the washing machine, which had been making noises as if it were out of balance. Fiddler has denied placing the baby in the washing machine. Coshatt told authorities that Fiddler had been using methamphetamine for 3 days before the baby's death. Tests showed that Fiddler had methamphetamine, amphetamine, opiates, and benzodiazepine in her system at the time of her arrest. The murder charge alleges the baby died because Fiddler failed to adequately care for the infant due to exposure to illegal drugs. Fiddler remains in Washington County Jail with a bond set at $100,000. The murder charge she now faces comes in addition to a child neglect charge filed in the case in November. Fiddler returns to court on March 100th. Mom accused in infant's death appears in court Bartlesville. A woman accused in the death of her infant daughter found dead in a washing machine appeared in a Washington County courtroom Friday morning. Lyndsey Fiddler was supposed to have a status hearing, but it was rescheduled to December 3rd. The 26-year-old mom doesn't have an attorney. She left the courtroom the same way she entered it, in police custody. As she walked to the elevator in handcuffs, she wouldn't respond to any of the questions News Channel 8 asked her about the day 10-day-old Maggie May Trammell died. A week ago, Fiddler's aunt told News Channel 8 she discovered Maggie May inside the washing machine as it ran. To people like Joe Parrott, the toxicology test that found meth and other drugs in Fiddler's system says a lot. Meth is something that grabs hold of you, and you just can't explain, he says. Joe says he knew Fiddler used drugs long before police were called to her home to investigate. Yes, I know her and her boyfriend, Joe remarked. He tells News Channel 8 that Fiddler is a nice person, but he said she also has an addiction. The 33-year-old admits he's one too. He was at the courthouse to turn himself in on an unrelated charge outside the courtroom, where Fiddler appeared for the status hearing. Parrott says,
Jail will save his life and thinks it will do the same for Fiddler. Under the law, Lyndsey Fiddler is considered innocent until proven guilty. Washington County Assistant District Attorney Will Drake says Fiddler could spend life in prison if
she's convicted of child neglect. At this point, the investigation does not warrant a murder charge, he says. Drake says that could change, however. The investigation is ongoing, and he said they're not ruling anything out. Epitome of a bad mother. Meth head monster tosses newborn in the washing machine. With dirty clothes, a 10-day-old baby girl died after being placed in a washing machine as it went through an entire spin cycle. The newborn's mother, Lyndsey Fiddler, put her daughter into the washing machine along with a pile of laundry. The tiny baby was inside the top-loading washing machine for up to 40 minutes before being discovered. Relative who called in to see Fiddler found her passed out, and the baby called Maggie May missing. She also heard a strange sound from the washing machine, and when she opened the door, she found Maggie's crumpled body mixed with her clothes. In a frantic call to emergency dispatchers, 26-year-old Fiddler is heard saying, "My baby is dead." She can then be heard arguing with her aunt Rhonda Coshatt, who is heard on the call saying, "No, I did not kill your baby, you did." Police have charged Fiddler with second-degree manslaughter after initially arresting her on drug charges. Family members had been concerned about Fiddler because of her past drug use. Earlier this year, they had tried to get her parental rights revoked before the birth of her third child. The young mother had been arrested in April for taking drugs when she was 4 months pregnant. She is suspected of being hooked on crystal meth and taking the drug the night her daughter died. The mother was asleep and she had trouble waking her. She heard the washer out of balance clanging, so she went to lift the lid so it would stop. In the washing machine, she saw the baby, Holland said. Fiddler's 2 boys, aged 4 and 3, were cared for by social workers. The infant's father, Benjamin Trammell, said he can't believe his girlfriend deliberately killed their daughter. Inside, my heart, I can't believe Lyndsey would have hurt our little girl. I don't believe it in my heart, to be honest with you, Trammell said. Paramedics had desperately tried to revive the newborn baby after she was pulled out of the washing machine, but she was already dead on arrival at the hospital. Paramedic John Hauser, who worked on the baby, said, "Terrible. I don't even know how to describe it. Fiddler has a lengthy criminal history with arrests for assault, driving without a license, and not having her 2 older children in car seats." 10-day-old Bartlesville baby found dead in washing machine. Mother arrested, Oklahoma. Police are investigating the death of a 10-day-old baby. The infant's mother, Lyndsey Fiddler, has been arrested for second-degree manslaughter. Police officers were called to a downtown apartment at 7:42 p.m. Thursday after receiving a 911 call. When they arrived, they found the infant dead inside a washing machine, having been put in there with clothes and gone through an entire wash cycle. Bartlesville Police Chief Tom Holland says he has never seen or heard of anything like this in his 40 years of police work. "I started in Fort Worth and have walked into apartments with 7 dead bodies, seen terrible crimes, mass murder even," Holland said. Police say an aunt of the mother went over Thursday night to check on Fiddler and her 3 kids and found a terrible scene. The mother was asleep and she had trouble waking her. She heard the washer out of balance clanging, so she went to lift the lid so it would stop. In the washing machine, she saw the baby, Holland said. Records show Fiddler has had many run-ins with Bartlesville police. She's been found guilty of larceny, assault and battery, and many times for failing to show up for court. She's also been stopped several times for speeding, driving without a license, and not having her kids in car seats. She was arrested in April for possession of a controlled drug when she was 4 months pregnant. She got a 1-year suspended sentence and 10 days in jail but didn't attend court. Fiddler's family tried back in June when she was pregnant, because they were so concerned about her drug abuse, to get her parental rights revoked, but it didn't happen. Now a tragedy has occurred that has devastated not only her family but also the emergency responders. I know the detective. He's a veteran detective taking photos at the hospital and had to step out for a while. He's got 3 girls, Holland said. John Hauser, a Bartlesville paramedic, tried to save the baby on the way to the hospital, but it was too late. Terrible. I don't even know how to describe it, Hauser said. He said she was so tiny when he lifted her into the ambulance that it just broke his heart. The infant's body has been turned over to the state medical examiner's office. Fiddler is currently being held without bond, and authorities say a bond hearing will be scheduled for this weekend.